Okay, the first step is we're going to remove the inspection plates on the frame. That's 6 bolts holding it in. They're 10mm bolts, and you will have to disconnect the intake air temperature sensor, which is right here, just a little push clip that you remove. So that's our first step. I'll get this taken care of and then we'll move on. Okay, so I've removed the inspection plates. Now you can look inside the airbox. You can see the velocity stacks. If you have a stock setup, those are going to be some rubber intakes. These are Bear Engineering short velocity stacks. These are held in by some stainless Allens, and I'm just going to remove them. There's 2 per stack. Now in your case, depending on what kind of stacks you have or what's been replaced, you might have a different fastener in there. But anyway, so next we're just going to remove these stacks so we'll have better access to the throttle bodies. Okay, so now you can see I've removed the bolts that are holding the velocity stacks in. Now these velocity stacks have an O-ring seal, and in this case they're very tight. So what I'm going to do is come down and actually loosen the clamps that hold the throttle bodies into the intake boots. It's these little clamps right here. There's 4 of them, and these use a 3mm Allen head. Also, while I'm over here, I'm going to remove the connector for the throttle position sensor. Okay, I've switched over to the other side to remove the other 2 bolts that are on the clamps. You can see what I'm using for this. It's a 3mm Allen on a long extension. That makes it easier to get up to the inner clamps. You don't always have to remove the bolt out of there, but if you don't and the clamp doesn't allow the boot to expand, when you go to pull the throttle bodies out, it's not going to come out very easily. So in some cases you do have to remove them. The other thing that I'm going to do while I'm over here is remove the throttle cables and the cable for the fast idle adjustment. These come out pretty easy right now because they're already taken loose up at the handlebars there. So now I'm going to move on. Okay, so I got the cables back out of the way. Now I'm going to try and pop this throttle body up. It should come up with a minimum amount of cussing, but maybe not. Let's see. Alright, so that's one side. So I've removed the hose from the intake air pressure switch. That's attached to the throttle body. So in lieu of removing the connectors from the individual injectors, which I found is extremely hard for me from the size of my hands, I just disconnected the injector harness from the main harness, and that'll make things a lot easier and less struggling. One other connection that I have to remove is the fuel line, and they can be very difficult to get off because the heat will actually cause the rubber to kind of stick in place. So one little trick you can use is to take either like a set of channel locks or pliers or whatever you have, lightly grip the hose and turn it back and forth. Now be careful not to damage the fitting, but that will loosen up the hose and that part that is stuck on there for ages, and there you go, it's off. So now I have the throttle bodies in the floor. Now these are the screws that hold the injector rail in. They're in very, very tight. So you don't want to just go and try and get them off with a regular Phillips screwdriver. So what you have to use is this tool. It's an impact driver. It uses the force. You smack it with a hammer. It uses the force to reduce the preload on the threads while at the same time delivering some pretty good torque to remove the screw. Now, since I'm filming this, it's hard for me to show this to you. I'm going to try and set up and see if I can get the camera working automatically just so you can see the process. Okay, so I've got the camera sitting on a box, and I'm going to go ahead and loosen one of these up and show you guys how to do it. So I'm just going to put these throttle bodies in a secure location so they don't move around at all. I'm going to place the impact driver with proper size tip on that screw, and then I'm going to just smack it with a hammer a couple times. And now you can see it comes off really easily. You haven't stripped out the screw or caused any damage. These tools aren't very expensive, probably, you know, maybe 20 bucks or something, but it really saves you a lot of headache in the long run. Okay, so now I have the injector rail loosened. I'm simply going to pull it back. You can see the injectors, I mean, they're right there. They're going to come out of the rail pretty easily. And really that's about it. These injectors have, you know, maybe 25,000 miles on them. I'm sending them out to be tested and cleaned. I'm going to send them to RC Engineering. There's plenty of companies who do it, but RC Engineering did a good job on my 14 injectors with prompt turnaround. That site is www.rceng.com. As I say, there's plenty of other sites that can do it, but that one worked for me. One final thing before you send the injectors out. I noticed that, you know, they numbered them when I got them back, and the last set I didn't number them beforehand. So this time I've numbered them just left to right, 1 through 4, and that way, you know, if they keep the same numbers through the cleaning process, then I would have some idea of maybe why the bike was running a little differently on one cylinder or another. But anyway, just an idea. So that about wraps this up, and my first time trying an instructional video, so hopefully you got something out of it. If not, maybe the next one will be better.